Hi guys, Ronnie here and welcome to the workshop. Many of you have been asking for an update regarding the European and World Time Trial Championships, so today I'm going to do just that. So as you may know, this year I finally managed to win the national title in the individual time trial in the elite category, so that enabled me to start at these world-class events, which I'm very happy about, and it has been my goal for a number of years, and I really wanted to do my best and represent the country there. So a bit of a throwback to the nationals. Back then the conditions were really hot, which doesn't suit me very well, so my power wasn't great there. I did around 290 for the duration of the time trial, and coming into the European Champs in September I felt in a much better shape. The numbers were much higher in training, so I was feeling hopeful. In fact, it was the first time when I did around 323-30 watts for an extended duration on the time trial bike. On the road bike it's pretty easy in that area, but on the time trial bike it's a little bit different, so I was happy with that and I was confident going into the European Champs. One thing that was a bit weird with the Trento course is that the official GPX file had some weird hits of elevation of grades around 13% when I looked at it in details, so I wasn't sure what to expect there. I know it was a course, pretty tight one in the city. So anyway, I took my double setup and all the adjustments necessary, all the tools to make the switch to double. Normally, I use the single ring. I'm going to talk about the bike later on. But when I thought about it, perhaps the steep grades would have fitted me well. Anyway, when we got to Trento, the conditions were pretty nice, but I was feeling a bit weird. Maybe it was from the stress from the traveling. When I did my pre-ride on the course and also my activation efforts, my heart rate was extremely high comparatively, but I didn't know what it was back then. One thing that I realized very quickly regarding both the European and the World Championships course is that these are very different from the courses that you get in an amateur time trial, because normally those are on a flat stretch of road, on a straight one usually, and you just go there and back. So it's pretty simple, not very technical, and it's also why people keep debating the need of disc brakes on time trial bikes, for example, because in those scenarios you don't really need them. But both of these events, particularly the one in Trento, the European Champs, were pretty technical. So as I said, fully urban course mainly, lots of corners, roundabouts, etc. So it's a very different thing, and you need the brakes. Ideally use them as little as possible, but still it helps if you can brake late, unlike with most rim brake setups. So I was happy I was on this bike, to be honest, but my cornering wasn't great. Firstly, I had a big crash in May in a corner, so my confidence wasn't great. I also switched tires to Michelin's, which are more grippy to help me out in this area, so the Power TTs that I had on. But still, I wasn't all that confident in the corners. And on race day came, I did my warm-up, everything was done basically as normally. I wasn't too stressed out, but after going out of the gate, the first couple of minutes felt normal. I was doing around 330, so what I was hoping to do for the duration of the 22 kilometers. And I did that in training before fairly easily, so I thought on a race maybe I could go for 3:35, 3:40. But after around 5 minutes or so, there was this little drag uphill out to the vineyards, and really not a big climb at all, a couple hundred meters at, I don't know, 4 or 5%. I did around 350, 360 there, as was my pacing strategy, and then I was hoping to recover, but there my heart rate just hit maximum and I just couldn't recover from it. It felt very weird. I had no power at all. It was actually similar than the nationals that I did 2 years ago when I was 6th. So yeah, from that point onwards, it was just fight for survival really. I had no power. I could barely hold first around 300, then I dropped down even to 250, 270, so it was terrible. And also because I was in this state, I couldn't focus on the corners either, so I was going slow everywhere. And yeah, it was just really not me, and really not how I imagined that this would go on. So I was pretty unhappy about that, because yeah, you never know if you get another chance at doing an event like this. But it was, I finished 38 out of 39 riders. Yeah, they were the best riders in the world arguably, but still, I think if I look back at it and the times, I could have certainly finished higher if I was well, riding to my personal best that I was setting before. So anyway, that was the European Champs. Done and dusted. Then immediately the next morning I took the long drive home, and right from that moment I felt that something was not right. First I got a sore throat, and I felt kind of weak, and then I pushed on with the trainings that I had prescribed. But the week after that, so the week before the European and the World Champs, was a complete nightmare for me. I haven't been sick for years basically, and it just hit me hard. I couldn't train. All I could hope for that, the condition improves and I'll be able to start at least at the World Champs. There in Belgium, it was a lot cooler, so that's a good idea, good sign for me. The course is longer, which also should benefit me in theory, and it was less technical. So I did the official training on Saturday morning, which was nice because we had the road all closed up like if it was the race itself. I wanted to check all the corners, and I was a lot more confident already. Maybe the experiences from Trento helped, so I was happy with my corner speed there. And power wise, I didn't know what I'm going to do because of the illness, etc., and because of the lack of training. But then on Sunday I felt pretty okay. I was also thinking about other things which might have caused the issue in Italy, but yeah, I just kept everything the same, or relatively the same. I made one change to the bike, but that didn't really affect anything negatively, at least. So yeah, I took the start there around the casino, and then it was pretty much straightforward, super fast course, almost zero elevation. Really, I just had around 3-4 meters for the whole 43 kilometers. So possibly the flattest course I've ever ridden. So I was hoping for a fast average speed, at least comparing to myself. Basically, it was all, that course was all about the aerodynamics and the power really. And power wise, I did 303 average. So for me, for that duration, it's good. It's in fact the best I've ever done, but it's not up to the standard that I would hope for after the numbers I've been posting in training for shorter durations. So yeah, that was the illness, that was the lack of training. Obviously I wasn't in top shape, but yeah, that on that day it was the best I could do. I've completely emptied myself, so really that was it. And then I started analyzing the speed a little bit, because I barely hit 47 kilometers per hour average. In fact, it was 46 something, and those are the speeds that I was doing 2-3 years before, for a similar power for shorter duration, of course, but it just didn't add up to me, because this course was, even though there were a few corners, they were pretty open, so you didn't really have to brake just 2 or 3 times. And at the nationals my speed was quite a bit higher on a rough course with 5 complete turnarounds where you slow down to almost 0, and also on the straight portions of the course, where you just, I would expect to go around 48 to 50 km per hour from that power I was doing, I was not. And yeah, I was analyzing this a little bit. Of course, I didn't have my special no-pins skin suit, which might be one factor. Then I saw in the pictures that maybe my helmet was tilted slightly up instead of, pushed back onto my back and neck. So that could have been another thing. Yeah, and even if I did the calculation or the analysis in best bike split, the CDA just wasn't what I was hoping for, and I didn't change anything regarding position of the bike, so it must have been something like this, which again is a shame, and it's a bit of a silly mistake. Also, I did one thing with the radio that you're not supposed to do. The skin suit that we had, or that I had from the Federation, made by Santini, this had the radio pocket on the back, and after talking to some people, usually for the time trials you don't use the radio at all. Really, it wasn't necessary, because I have seen the course on the day before, so I knew everything. There was not much to say really, or at least I could have put it in front of the skin suit, just hanging around, and that would have caused less drag, because the back is pretty critical in terms of the airflow. Yeah, so that was it. Maybe a beginner mistake, but I was a beginner at that stage, so I'm hoping to improve that, and for the next year hopefully the luck will be a little bit better and I won't get sick at the possibly worst opportunity there was for the whole year. So anyway, that's pretty much it. At the Worlds I ended up 45th out of I think around 60 riders, so that's an improvement, but yeah, I could have possibly done better. Anyway, no excuses, these are all my faults. I could have taken better care of myself, and I could have paid more attention to the radio, the helmet, etc. So yeah, lessons learned from that. Now I'm in the off-season period, and I'm feeling much better than I felt last year. I'm pretty much back to the power numbers I did before the sickness, so that's a good sign. Much higher than last year, and I'm hoping to build on that for the next season. We'll continue in the same strategy, so increased muscle mass to increase the overall power. Weight-wise, the power to weight not really important to me at this point, at least until I'm focused on the time trials, which I am. And one more thing that I analyzed, or a couple of other riders' data, and I got to the conclusion that even though my CDA is pretty low, when I looked at Remco, for example, which is a rider of similar size, he rides the same bike, very similar equipment, his CDA was much better. And then I looked at his position compared to mine, and one thing I've noticed that from head on, or from the side I look okay, but from head on my shoulders are sticking out quite a lot, so I'm quite wide in the front, and perhaps it's because I'm not using the extensions all the way as the UCI allows to 80 centimeters of reach. For me as a shoulder rider, it could perhaps give me a benefit because my arms basically are tucked underneath me, so my shoulders have nowhere to go. I could go lower and stack, which I've tried, but that wasn't very comfortable or very good power wise, so I'm going to certainly experiment with that a little bit, just to try extending my reach like he has, then bringing the heads further up, and this way my shoulders are stretched further out, so they're actually a lot slimmer. Right now I'm at less than 75 centimeters of reach with the custom extension that I currently have. So yeah, that's a lot of space that I can still take up safely. And another thing I want to try with some cool air bar components that I recently got for the shop is, well, something similar to what Philippe Garner does with his arm pads. You know, because apart from the reach rule, the UCI also dictates the maximum height of the extensions, which in my case, the way I have set it up, it requires me to really push my head low, and that only then is when my position works. But if I actually manage to push the elbow pads further up, because right now I'm right at the elbows, I still have a lot of potential to go, you know, up here where he does it, and then you can make the whole extension taller and further up, so you can hide a little bit more behind your arms with the head. So yeah, I'm certainly going to look into these options. Now I have a lot of time to do that, so yeah, it didn't really occur to me until I compared the power data, but really for the speed he was doing, it was very little power, so much better CDA than mine, at least on that day. So a lot to improve really in all areas. Now let's talk a little bit about the bike itself, to show you the new things that I got. Okay, so this setup is very similar to what I had at the event. So as I said, I had 5 millimeters of stack on top of this, which felt and tested better, but I wanted to try it out still. Didn't really work, so I'm going back with that, or back to the standard setup to try the things I've talked about earlier. One other cool thing for these air bars is the Bahu mount for the new Bolt 2, which perfectly integrates into the shape, so it's a little bit more aero. The rest of the setup pretty much the same, head wheels, of course. One thing I've recently changed is the SLF Motion oversized pulley wheel. This is the aero version with the extended cover, so you don't have those exposed pulley wheels out there. That's also a bit of a marginal gain there. Then we have the PCD chainring as before. The chain I used at the events was a ceramic speed UFO coated 11 speed race chain, so what I use for my important events all the time. It's very efficient, so I'm sticking with that. And then the big upgrade came in the form of the dash seat post combo, which you can see here. And this is a special seat post with a head that eliminates the need for traditional clamps and rails, so it's a lot cleaner, a lot more aero, or at least as far as the seat posts go. It's super lightweight too, but that's really not that important in my case. The more important thing is of course the clean profile. This is a saddle design that I've used before. It's a TT9, except this is a special version for the, well, with no rails. The adjustments are done with this rotating cradle on top, so this is for the angle adjustment. and also this slider is for the fore and aft adjustment. One thing I need to change regarding the saddle, compared to my previous setup that was set at the 5 cm UCI limit, and it felt okay that way. I didn't really like to go further out, even though I could with these short extensions. But when I set this saddle up the same way, I just felt too far forward over the bottom bracket, and it's simply because of the shape. It's completely different than that saddle, so you sit a bit differently on it, and that meant I had to push it quite a bit further back to get the same feel and the same actual position. Now, a lot of people have been asking about this part right here. Now this is the standard feature of the Dash TT9 saddles, and normally it serves the purpose of facilitating a water bottom mount. But in my case it's a little bit different, because as you can see there's no mount over there. It's a completely clean flat surface. But the reason I've left it on there is because it's behind my back. It actually acts as a splitter, so it potentially lowers the CDA by a tiny bit. Actually, the British track trim had the very same thing, or very similar at least, made by Simmons Racing on their Hope HB bikes or HBT bikes. So again, a little bit of a marginal gain right there. Okay, so that was pretty much all about the bike and the races that I've done. I hope you have found this informational or entertaining in some way, and we'll be back with other news as I progress. Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.